Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker-Carl, broadcasting to you from beautiful Indianapolis, Indiana. And I'm here with my good friends Dan and Karen, Jason and Lori and Catherine. And today we are going to continue our discussion of the book Love, Life, God by Jarrad Hewitt. And we are in the middle of chapter 11. If you've missed seeing us the past couple of weeks, I apologize for that. I was on vacation and we had a few technical difficulties with going live on Facebook, but I will be posting the recordings here in the next week or so. But before we get going with our discussion, I want to give my friends an opportunity to introduce themselves. And for those of you who are watching, if you'd like to just share a comment there below the video, live stream on Facebook, let us know that you're out there and add to the conversation as we go along. All right, guys, go ahead and jump out.
Since I'm already Karen Lohoff from Mesa, Arizona.
It's Catherine Clement here.
Lori Emmons in Denver.
Dan Sisek in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Hey, Jason Roberts here from Tampa, Florida, St. Pete, Florida. Glad to be here.
Awesome, guys. It's always great to have a good group of folks to talk to about these things. So this week we are in the middle of chapter 11. Last week I think we ended on page or somewhere around about page 163. So I figured we could just kind of start at the top of 163 and read into it until somebody has something they want to say. And then when you have a thought on what we're reading, just jump out and unmute yourself and share your thoughts. So who wants to read today?
I will. Tell me again where we're starting.
Okay, we are on page 163. If you got the hard copy book, just starts at the top of the page where it says yes and more as an example.
Okay, yes and more. As an example, we would like to use the image of a needle. You've heard it said that it is harder for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter the kingdom. Well, duh. A rich man has more stuff than the poor man. A poor man can say, I have nothing, therefore I surrender everything. The poor man has no story other than his being poor. And if he can give up this story, he will enter into the kingdom, which, as we have mentioned, is within each of you. The rich man has many things and aspects of himself which he is attached to. He says, I cannot let go of everything, for if I do, I will be as poor as the poor man. His attachments, his attachments have kept him from surrendering to the blank page from which creation is born. That is you without your story. Now, we will provide another example because we do not wish to leave you with the idea that material possessions are a hindrance. They are merely physical manifestations you have called forth from your desire for experience. I think that's a powerful paragraph right there for many of us to think about. I remember when we started, well, we didn't start this, you had already started it, Samantha, but I came in really quite a long time ago now, and all of our choices, it seemed to be all about prosperity. We were trying so hard to get materially successful, and that was our focus. And it's really interesting that he's saying material possessions, he doesn't want us to get the idea that they're a hindrance. They are merely physical manifestations we've called forth from our desire for experience. I would like to call forth the experience of a Maserati, preferably red. Emotionally, you may say, I am an unhappy person. I am depressed, we would say, well, why are you depressed? You may answer in several different ways. One, you might claim not to know. Two, you might list the things in life that you think have made you unhappy. Or three, you might say, I have a chemical imbalance. None of these answers would be incorrect, but they would all be aspects or parts with regard to your story to the depression. Could you let these things go? Can you see that none of them define who you are? They are just your experiences. You cannot move through the eye of the needle to the blank page because your bag carrying your depression is too filled. Can you let go of the story? We're not telling you, say you are not depressed, and you will not be. That's kind of like we were talking earlier about, saying, I am self-love. We are saying, how has depression come to define you? How has your story kept you from what you wish to experience? Well, I did have a friend tell me that he had a cold.
Let's talk about that for a second, Karen. I know a lot of people struggle with depression, and I'm probably, well, I know I'm one of them, and I know my daughter is, and I actually know quite a few people in my life that have struggled with depression, and it's interesting that it talks about that as being part of our story, because over the years it does feel like that's just been part of my story. But yet when I started working on personal development, I started recognizing how the way that I think about it makes a difference in some aspects of my depression, and then other times it doesn't. It just seems like it just kind of comes on, and I don't feel like I have any control over it. So I think it's interesting that they're kind of telling us, okay, let go of all your stories relating to it. And I don't know if they're saying it's going to go away if you do that or what, but it doesn't necessarily go away. It just becomes this kind of blah feeling that doesn't have a defining quality, I guess you will. So I guess the difference is that it is, instead of me going, I'm depressed and this is why, I just have this kind of blah feeling come over me, and then I look at it and I try not to define it, and I try and just be like, I am self-love, or I'm not gonna wallow in it, if you will, but yet it's still there. So what is that? I don't know. That's my question on this.
Well, I was going to jump out and say, I don't think I have had really deep bouts of depression or stuff, but I have my moments where I know I've gone through like cycles where I'm kind of up and then down, but I've noticed that when certain things are not going exactly the way I want, that's when I tend to focus on them. And then that kind of brings me down to a down level. And I have to be careful of that, because then that's when I kind of keep continually spiraling down that way until I sit there and work on trying to get out of that, because I'm overall usually pretty very overall happy-go-lucky. I think some of the things I've dealt with and stuff, but in no way compares to what some of you guys have dealt with. But I've also been there, and it's like I don't want to reside in that level either, because I know what that feels like, and I always try and do something that will help pull me out of it. And I think that's when music comes in and plays, a big part, where, when I put in, and it's weird, I always start with music that kind of matches my feelings or matches where I'm at. And then as I get through that and kind of, then after a while, it's like I grow tired of that particular type of music. And I then say, okay, let's change it to something a little more upbeat. Then I can kind of, but it's but I don't think it's still the same as like what you've gone through, Samantha, or you know, Karen, or some of the others. What you guys have gone through. But it is one of those questions because we all do go through those ups and downs, and in those moments we're like, well, how come this is playing into this if this really is not, if we can manifest these other things, and this is just one part of it, that if we want to get rid of it, we can. It's that, to me, it's that hamster wheel thing. It's like, they're telling, we're being told that, oh, all you have to do is get off of that or take, but that's easier said than done. Kind of like what you were saying sometimes, Samantha. It's like, you know, and it seems so simplistic to say, sit there and go, oh, I am self-love. Let me recreate, let me move into this creation mode. But how do you really get into that? How do you really get there when you're stuck on that kind of that hamster wheel type thing? And this is where I a lot of times have my issues and my problems, because I'll be honest, last night when I was laying in bed, I was praying. I'm saying, like, God, please just, get rid of this tooth issue, because it's really pushing me to this limit here where, when the pain was flaring up kind of really bad, it's like, it's a pain I don't want. I can deal with cuts. I can deal with, I've had, my nose broken. I've gotten back up. I almost slipped my eyelid, running into rebar as a kid. My mom just butterfly bandaged it, and I went on my way. But this tooth is like really getting in and really, affecting me. And it's like the pain is just, and it kind of overcomes everything you're in the middle of. Like if I'm trying to focus on this or focus on this, and all of a sudden I get this shooting pain, and it's like, and my whole body just, I can feel that through my whole body, and I just want it to stop. And so it's, I don't see how you guys deal with that in that aspect, because I think it's even a different kind of emotional feel that it's even deeper than that for when you're in those deep, dark, depressed moments. Sorry if I went on and on, but my brain was just kind of going on there.
I'll hop out real quick, Dan. I totally feel you when you have a pain that's in your head, like from where we perceive everything, that just gets a headache or a toothache or something like that. That's constant reminder and in your way, kind of a pain. I think that's really difficult to deal with. Depression, I think depression can be like a really sneaky thing, because I don't, I'm sure I deal with it on different levels and much less than a lot of other people, but still it can sneak up on you, and it's hard to even put a name on it sometimes, I think. But the thing I wanted to jump out on in regards to the reading was, the eye of the needle. Two things they're saying there about attachments and the eye of the needle. Like, how much attachments do you have to where you are, what you want to go, or what is, where you want to go, or what you want to do, and your story, your attachments that are kind of keeping you from doing what you want to do. And then, how big are you making the eye of that needle, or how small are you making that eye of the needle with your story? I think we can hold ourselves back by making that eye so small that we have to have all of our boxes checked, or everything has to be so perfect. And but I got that out of the reading is, two things that we might be able to affect in that analogy is, our, how much baggage or how much attachments we have that we're trying to pull through that I, and also how much leeway are we giving ourselves?
It's hard to go through this life and not get into comparison and what's the other C word? Comparison and competition, because it seems that what makes the world go round, everyone's competing for time or stuff, and none of it's going to be there afterwards, you know. And Dan, I would rather give birth than have a toothache. It's the worst, I think. It's just how we get into the creation mode instead of competing and comparing. Not like anyone has something worse than someone else, because to that person it might be unbearable, but another one can just skate right through it.
I agree, Lori, and I think that I think that we can draw upon our past experiences to kind of help us get through the present experiences as well. What we were doing, I remember we did go over this part of the book a little bit last week, and so one of the things that I came up with is that how our perspective on our outlook on things can really affect us and either hold us in that sort of under that, like what you mentioned, Dan, the hamster wheel, or what I like to call a loop that we kind of get into. And it seems to be the loop is about these feelings that pull us in back and around and through, what we're going through and our wheres and what fors and whys that we end up maybe going into a slight depression or going into a loop of feelings and actions that don't really bring us and get us anywhere. And so snapping out of that loop is getting off that hamster wheel is, I think, for a lot of us, what we want to be able to do, like just whenever we notice that we're into it. I did find my notes from last week, and real quick, the last thing that I remember saying was about the things. I mean, I know there's more factors that are affecting us, but 4 things that I realized were affecting us or me was our bodies and how they limit us, our environment and how it limits us, and our perspective and how we allow that to limit us, and that time is the ultimate limiting factor for all of us as well, and how that can actually be a motivator, though, that we can focus on how much little time we have, that we need to act in the now, and that actually by acting in the now and focusing on what it is rather than all the limits and all the reasons and wherefores that we can't, in our story that we can't, why we may not be able to do something, or our fears or whatever it might be, instead of focusing on that, we seem to have the most focus when we are focusing on exactly what it is we want to do, and where everything else sort of fades away because we're focused so much on it. So take the now, focus on what you want to do, and let everything else go. And was what I kind of came to a conclusion last week anyway.
It's interesting you bring up those 4 points about I'm trying to remember them. Time, perception. What were the other two?
Our environment.
And the other one.
And time, our environment, our perception, and our body.
And it's funny how those seem to really do have that finite aspect about, but yet in this book tells us that we are more than that finite stuff. But to me, it doesn't help us with the answer of how do we really get to that other, except by saying I am love. But where does that I am love really get us? I mean, or is it because we allow those constraints to really limit us, and we don't see the fact that we can go past that maybe? And I don't know, and that's maybe part of where my issue comes in. It's like, okay, you're telling me this, but how do I get really past all the physicalness, the time, the perceptions and all that? How do I really get past that? Because
Yeah,
I don't see, I don't think that I am love is the full way to get there. I think there's something else there attached to it that can help us get there. Maybe I just.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Dan. I'm thinking that being able to wipe or break free of those attachments, at least in our mind, to create that blank page that they were speaking of. Once you're on that blank page, then maybe you can have that focus on the self-love part and experience that deeper meaning of things. And then maybe even that helps to melt things away even further so that we can then come at life with a different perspective, from that blank page in a place of love. Is maybe. But I hear you saying, yeah, it's difficult to see through all that other stuff.
The whys and wherefores and all that becomes so huge, it's hard to just erase that and get to a blank page and start creating something new, something different, something life-changing. It's just that big question. How do I do that? And I've also heard teaching about forget the how, just go in and do it and it will start coming to you. I'm like, sure, I can't throw away all this minutia that has been my life for however long. It's just a huge question, right?
Yeah, it's almost as if that stuff, seems to like give our lives that unique meaning, and we don't want to let go of it. I can see that for some things in my life as well.
I think we can go ahead and start reading the next part. You want to continue, Karen? You're muted.
Surely you've learned to read my lips. Well, I did have a friend tell me that he had a cold and was tired of coughing and sneezing all day. So he sat down and repeated the mantra, I am perfect health, for 20 minutes, and it all just stopped. That reminds me of a time it was the first time I'd experienced suicidal thoughts, and I had experienced them for months, and my entire day was made of these thoughts, and I just couldn't seem to stop them. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know, I just didn't know how to get them to end. And I had read this book, and I remembered it about cancel, just to say cancel, 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 cancel. And I decided that every time I had a suicidal thought, I was going to say cancel, cancel, cancel 3 times. And the first day that I tried that, it was a full day of saying cancel, 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 cancel. But the next day, I didn't have to do it more than 4 or 5 times. And I was able to be through of those thoughts. I was able to, have other things on my mind. And it was such an incredible change for me at that time. It was an incredible blessing. So, maybe this is good for a bad tooth. I've had a sore tongue for months now, and it's amazing when I don't have it, I don't think about it. But when I have it, it's like it's like the worst thing ever. And I could easily sit and say I'm in perfect health, or I have perfect health, for 20 minutes and see if I couldn't stop it. It would certainly be worth it to me. If I could stop that, that would be fabulous. Indeed, he dropped one story and claimed another without the previous parts. But we are talking about a slightly bigger picture. We would say that the largest story most in this plane have held is that I am not God. I am not the creator of my reality. A few have come here and released this story. Instead of adopting and spreading their message, institutions were set up to worship them. This is not to take away from the messengers in any way, for they are wonderful. They are you. This may be the most difficult story to release because for thousands upon thousands of years, there has been a belief in judgment and damnation. You see now yet another layer in which fear of creation plays a role, and here on a global scale. When we release our fear of knowing we are all one creation, and that we are in fact the directors and creators of this energy, we move into and through our intention of remembering our oneness with all, and we come to the point of the blank page. We release thousands of years of consciousness that has said, you are not God. We refresh our own energy. We're now able to move forward in creating the knowing that we are one and that we are the creators of our own reality without the baggage of thinking we aren't. We're able to let go of everything that has come before, and we are able to fully enter the moment of now. We're able to release our attachment to everything, including outcomes, because as the blank page, all is well. We're truly in the moment of creation. We're always in the moment of creation, though, right? Very good. But now, as the blank page, you are free to truly create as opposed to recreate, for there's nothing to recreate. No more stories. Do you follow? All the way to the blank page. Welcome aboard. It is a wonderful thing to see the consciousness poised to do this. The potential is awe-inspiring. So what happens to the ego, which from my understanding is the conglomeration of our stories, individual and cultural? It evolves. The ego has been given this magical, powerful status of who I am. In reality, ego is not the source of self. Self is the source of self. Self exists as that larger portion of the you that knows it is source. That part knows who you are, and that part knows it can never die. The ego doesn't, yet your ego is not something to be feared. You have come here to experience yourself as an individualized expression of source energy. I'm going to repeat that sentence. You have come here to experience yourself as an individualized expression of source energy. Even if you've chosen to remember who you are, you wouldn't be able to have that experience had you not had your ego. Your ego has received a bad rap. It's been your identity and it's feared losing its grip. Yet you may say to your ego, your sense of identity, you will not die, you will evolve. There's quite a bit of information in there. Shall we maybe, yeah.
I was going to jump back because I was at a thought going back to where it's, I was talking about the I am perfect health part. And I've kind of been trying to say something similar to that, over the last few days, because I keep going back to this thing of I am love part, because that's kind of something I've grasped onto. But in trying to say, because I think I know my body pretty well, and I know that when I get stressed, I know I internalize things so much that it does affect my body. And when I'm feeling okay and things are going right and things, it's just all free flowing. But I've had my moments where, and I'm going to use the analogy of the pills, like the acetaminophen, the Aleve, the ibuprofen that I take to help mitigate the pain. And when that's not there, I don't really think about my mouth that much. I can eat, I can talk, I can do all this and everything. But, the minute the pain starts coming back, all of a sudden I'm right there and I might be saying, okay, I know my health. I know my body is more than this. And I'm trying to tell myself that, there's more to this than my body. But then it seems like the body comes on and just screams that much louder of the pain to drown that out. And I feel sometimes like I'm drowned out by the pain. And then that's all I focus on. And it just, it's like, I'm, and I know that, by going to the dentist and probably having the tooth extracted will, take away that. But at the same point, I have other, dental issues that need to be squared away. But part of that issue is coming about because I've not had insurance for so long that I've not been able to deal with those things. So I believe those are manifestations of that. And I just feel like I'm never going to ever be able to get on the other side of this because of that.
Well, that's a great example of being, I think, Dan, you know, in all of it, and not and needing a professional set of eyes that can look from the outside and give you a plan of attack with that, So I would say that's exactly why you should go in and just have a consult with a dentist and get their opinion and find out if they can put together a plan. Then you'll feel a lot better. I think that's where you can break free of your loop, at least in that respect of what's going on in your life, is take that action that you're probably like, oh, I don't want to go to a dentist like everybody else. Nobody wants to go to a dentist. But what I came to a conclusion last night was that, because I try to pick up on, get lessons from life and from radio and from TV and from every little thing that I come into contact with, and I made a realization that I could break free from my loop by doing the one thing it was that was holding me back, that was fearing me, that I was being feared of, even if, because, and you know, the one thing that was, I was putting making so much of a big deal about it, you know. But if I just go ahead and tackle that one thing and don't put the story on it, don't make the eye of the needle so small, don't try to bring so much along with me, just be like, you know what, I'm going to do that one thing and I'm not going to worry about the outcome. I'm not going to say it has to be this way or that way. I'm just going to do that one thing, that one action. And by doing that, I mean, I realized that by doing that, that's going to break me from the loop. That's going to get me beyond that sticking point, so to speak, you know? So anyway, but I think maybe, I mean, for having a tooth issue, I mean, there's just no, I think that we can definitely affect our bodies and put ourselves in good health, good spirit, and affect ourselves, but I'm not a healer. I can't necessarily heal everything in my body just by thinking about it and focusing on it. Just not there, you know? So I think if we can, you know, respect our limitations in that respect, and then just push past our fears to get to that next spot, and maybe we can break free of that loop, at least in that one respect or aspect of our life.
Okay, but I'm going to bring up the point that was made in the book where the guy just had a cough, and he had a cough for a few days, and he said several minutes worth of times, I am perfect health, and it just all stopped. Okay, to me that alludes to the fact that you're able to do that, and to me, I've kind of tried that, and so that's what I'm trying to get at. That's what I'm trying to understand, is really how much control do we have, and is this really one of those parameters thing, or perception things, and as well as physical things and stuff, you know, where how far does the physical and all those things that limit us, because based on how this book is talking, it's trying to say, and this is my perception, that it's trying to say, oh, well, by being just self-love, you will get to that, and get into that blank page. A lot of those things and those issues, I guess they have an effect, but if you let those go, you're at that new page, so that shouldn't matter, and that should not be a part of that, and therefore you're at a new point, and you're recreating, or not recreating, creating new from there, so this part's irrelevant. That's, I think, what I'm trying to get to, and I think that's where, you know, sometimes I think that's why I trip up on things like this, because I'm like, based on what you're saying this, but where does it really take us? And where, you know, why would you use an analogy of just a cough then? You know, a simple cough, and you're sitting there, I'm in perfect health, and it went away. You know, that's, you know, so then does it only work for just a cough, or, you know, and it doesn't work for something more? What is the real impact, or what is the real implication going forward? That's what I'm trying to get into.
You know, and I think it depends on where we have stories wrapped around stuff too. And, you know, because I have, you know, healed myself in a number of different ways with the, you know, certain things, but yet with migraines, I struggle with that. And I don't know if it's because that pain is so intense that I can't just talk myself out of it. I don't know, or believe myself out of it or whatever, and I have, there, like I my vision, I've not been able to talk my vision into perfection, but yet I have had a number of different situations throughout my life where I have something up with my body that I'm like, I know is not a good thing. I can feel it coming on, and and I can talk myself out of it, or I can believe or love or whatever you want to call it, and it will stop, it'll go away, it'll whatever. And so I think that there's just different aspects to it. I mean, some things it's easy. It's like no big deal. I can make this go away. It's not a problem, And then other times, not so much. I catch for a long time, I told myself that I never get sick, and I'm healthy, and I'm, sickness doesn't bother me. And for a lot of years, I wasn't. But then I worked in a new environment that I'd never been in before, and I was getting sick constantly. And I'm like, what in the hell? Why is it that for all these years I've been telling myself that I'm, so healthy and I never get sick, and then all of a sudden some little thing changes in my life and then I'm sick all the time. And I'm like, I know I didn't stop telling myself that I'm, healthy and I don't get sick easier. So I don't understand that, and then and there's just certain things that I really struggle with as far as my health is concerned. And, like my weight, for instance, how come I can't just, tell myself that I'm thin and I am suddenly thin, right? But there's all these different stories that I have around that too. I'm like, I have these ideas in my head of what, food does to our bodies. And that, of course, is a belief and it's a story. And so because I have that story in my mind, then that's what I manifest in my body. So I think that it's hard to get to that kind of blank page what they're talking about. And I think that's a big clue, because when we can let go of these ideas that we think we know, then we have a better chance of manifesting from a place of, without beliefs. And but when we're caught up in the midst of something that is very intense, or that we have had in our lives for a really long time, like for instance, I've had back issues for most of my life, and even though I have resolved quite a bit of that, I still have issues with it. And and I believe as a person, as a human, that as I get older, my body's not going to function as well. And as much as I'd like to not believe that, I'd like it to just, stay healthy and young forever. But, I can't get over that whole belief that, as we age, we just don't function as well anymore. So there's that going against me, So there's so many different aspects to it. And I think that's kind of, part of being human is we have all these stories, we have all these beliefs, we have all these things that we've read over time or listened to, or our doctors have told us, or et cetera, et cetera. And it's hard to let go of all those things and get to a blank slate where there is no thought process on what causes what in our bodies. And, if we think something is caused by something, or we believe that, then it's hard to not manifest it. So that's my thoughts on that.
I kind of come from the belief and understanding that we have, that on one hand we have great power in our mind and our mind over body type of thing. We also have great power in our body, and that our body is set up and so amazing that it's constantly trying to overcome and fight illnesses and bacterias and all kinds of things constantly as well. And so I think through our mind we can elevate our body to the point where it will heal itself. I believe that, but I do also, I think, like what you're saying too, Samantha, we can hinder ourselves by having negative thoughts or counterproductive thoughts and seep in as well. I think for some of us, when we're trying to learn about the stuff, but we're probably just not there yet to where we can snap a finger and think a thought and make something all better just yet. But we're learning, right?
I read a number of years ago, I don't remember where, it was some medical related thing or something about the placebo effect, or I don't know. Anyway, I got on this topic where it was talking about the fact that, over a period of 7 years, every single cell in our body is a new cell. And when I read that, I'm like, it doesn't even make sense that we age at all. If every cell in our body is brand new every 7 years, we should never be more than 7 years old as far as our physical makeup is concerned. And that always made me think about that. It's like, okay, so what is making me age? What is making my cells, when they are new cells every 7, I don't know how that works exactly, but that was what they were saying. And I'm like, because I know some of our cells replenish much faster than that. So I don't know. Anyway, but my point is that I'm like, if that's the case, then what is it that's causing my cells to deteriorate each time they regenerate brand new? And I don't know, I know that there's genetics and all these things that supposedly play a part in that. But if we drill down into the smallest, tiniest aspect of our existence, we're mostly empty space and electrons and I don't even atoms and all of that. And why do those manifest into deteriorated states, as we have been here longer in this human existence? It just doesn't make sense, So it's kind of like, on one hand, we have like all of this science telling us, as we age, we just don't function as well as we once did. But yet, on another aspect of science, it's saying there's really no explanation for any of it. So it's just fascinating things to think about.
Along that line, I want to just say that I've had a recent win in the last couple of weeks in regards to my back. I've been having terrible pain in my lower back. I've had some car accidents, and I've had a stool pulled out from under me where I landed, straight down and really injured my lower back really bad. And I always have been, and then I sit in front of the computer and I'm like crunched over, and I had been in a point over the past year where I couldn't even stand up out of, if I sat down in a chair for any length of time, I had a really difficult time getting out. And I'm not that old, but the thing is it was really painful, really painful. And I'd be hunched over walking, and then it would start to ease up, and I felt better standing, but then you can't stand all the time either, and it, anyway, my win came after I was like, you know what, I'm just going to use everything that I know about that I can do. And so I started taking all these supplements, these vitamins that I hadn't been taking, because I'm a firm believer that we don't get enough nutrients in the food that we eat, no matter what. That kind of became clear to me with my headaches, when I started realizing I didn't have enough potassium and magnesium in my body. And when I started taking that, my headaches went away. But in regards to my back, I was like, well, maybe I can kind of use the same thing and just say, I started taking B complex, and they're saying that stuff doesn't build up in your body. It's water soluble, but it doesn't build up. You have to constantly be taking it. So I bought some of that, and I started taking all the vitamins that I had bought, but I really wasn't taking them like I regularly. So I started making sure that I took them not only every day, but twice a day. I was taking everything. Certain things I wouldn't take every single day, like maybe an iron or something like that. It's things that you really, might not want to, or like vitamin C. If I take too much of that, I start to break out. but I can still take a pretty good amount of it. So I started taking all these vitamins. I started taking the B complex every single day, along with my potassium and magnesium and zinc. You got to, you got to figure out which of these that you can and can't take. Each of us are different. My brother can't take zinc. He swears he's allergic to it. I'm like, okay, well, don't take it. But the thing is I did that. I started doing that, and I took. I started taking to bed with me ice packs and putting it on my lower back, and every 15-20 minutes moving it to another place on my back and on my legs and my hamstrings and my glutes, and just moving them around. And I basically been sleeping with the ice packs every night, and my pain has gone away, and I can sit down for lengths of time and get up and not feel the pain. And this is from a spot where I really thought I had like major damage to my lower back that just was going to cause me to not ever, be able to be right ever again. So, I think the main thing I get out of that is just that, looking for the answers, not giving up, looking for the answers, trying to figure out what works for you. But I had a win with that, and I just wanted to share that. Thanks.
That's awesome, Jason. And and what's funny to me about that, and not funny in a, anyway, just it's interesting to me, and that's awesome. That's awesome. Is for me and my back issues that I've had, throughout my life, it wasn't injury related. It was I don't even really know. I have a disc that just has issues. And but for me, it's heat that works for, helps with my back, and exercise, and yoga and that kind of thing, and everybody I've ever talked to about back problems, for people who have gotten relief from it, it's something different for everyone. And so that brings me back around to this whole idea of beliefs. It's what do we believe is going to fix it? And those are the things that will fix it for us. So then that comes back down to the manifestation aspect of it. We're manifesting this, all of it, and because of what we believe. And so if we can maybe, like it said, let go of these beliefs, get back to the blank page, and just allow for, I don't even know, just allow the human experience to happen in the moment, I guess. I'm really not sure. I mean, but of course, as a human, we want all these things. And so we have all these parameters that we put around them. And, it's how to navigate through life without putting too many parameters on our lives, and yet at the same time trust and allow that we're gonna, I don't know, be what we want to be. I'm not really even sure. I had a number of years ago, there was a one of my online teachers was talking about digging down to what it is you really, really want, because we say we want this one thing, but why do we want the thing? And then we're like, well, because I'm going to be, we'll say, for instance, the property that we're searching for, why do we want this property? And, we want the property so that we can park our trucks there and have more space and have some land and all of these things. But why do I want that? And it's like, well, I want to provide this for, my husband wants some of this, so then we dig down further, and it's like, well, why do you want that? And you just keep digging down and down and down and down. And eventually you get down to like, well, just because, because I think that's going to make me happy or whatever, and then when you're like, well, why can't you just be happy in the moment? Which you can, I can be happy in the moment. So do I even really need those things I think that I want? If really all I want is to be happy, then I can have that right here in this moment. And maybe that's what they're trying to, help us understand, is that, to figure out what it is we really, 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 really want by digging down through all the stories. And then aren't we already there? Which good question. So anyway, we are past the top of the hour, guys. Share a final thought, and then we'll wrap up for today.
I just want to hop out real quick and say I realize that I still do have the injuries, but the win was really that it's the pain isn't pervasive, and that I've been able to manage it now, and so that's really the win. I do have the discs are I have some discs from from the car accidents and stuff like that, but the pain that I thought was going to be there forever, I've been able to alleviate that. Yeah, and I like what you're saying there, digging down into what it is that we really want. I appreciate you, Samantha. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dan. Thanks for reading, Karen. I appreciate you. And for everything you do, Lori, appreciate you too. And you too, Catherine. You have a great weekend, everybody.
I'm going to jump out, and sorry I kept using my tooth as but that's my thing that I'm going through right now, and it's the one thing that's invading my life right now. And the other part of this is, yes, I'm going to go to a dentist, but I'm waiting for insurance to kick in too, and all this happened before insurance kicked in, so I'm dealing with all that because, when the one day when it got really so bad and I did go to the dentist and they took my blood pressure, and Samantha and I talked about this a little bit because she was helping me with ideas on what to do with the pain. They took my blood pressure because dentists do that now because they're trying to alleviate them having people that, well, during a procedure have a stroke or something. I'm like, I just want the pain. I'll sign anything. Just, take care of it, but they wouldn't do it because my blood pressure. So in a way, I had a good thing come out of this, found out about the blood pressure because it was really elevated, very high at that time. So I had to go to a doctor and get a doctor's okay to be able to go back to have this. But I'm almost of the mind. It's like, so here I have to go, I'm in pain. Part of my blood pressure, the reason why my blood pressure going up is one, I'm in major pain. I'm stressed and stuff and everything like that. Plus my blood pressure goes up anyway when I do go to the doctor, any doctor, dentist, whatever. So, and then I have to wait. And it's like, but the pain is here and now. Are you not supposed to, take a vow to help take, and I felt like I just got thrust into a round robin type thing when all I really wanted was, okay, if we have to extract the tooth, let's extract the tooth and move on, and I would have been fine. And I know I would have been fine. But because of those constraints, so I've had to live, I'm living with this now for about 3.5 weeks until my insurance kicks in. Then I can go back to them and say, okay, I'm cleared. Let's get this done. And I almost feel like I was forced into a situation I shouldn't have been forced into too. And that's another stress that's adding on things too. So in my mind, I'm trying to think, okay, well, based on what this book is telling me, and having read that part where the guy with the cough, okay, well, maybe I can help myself by looking at it and saying, okay, because they did my blood panel work and they did all that. And all my blood work and everything was fine within normals. The doctor was very happy about that. A little elevated cholesterol, but she said, do good on the good cholesterol and that'll help take care of the other. And so even in that, I'm like, okay, if all my, so it was just making me, and I've been going around with this. So sorry, I'm not trying to make this mountain that's really probably a molehill. But sometimes when you're in the middle of that, the throes of that, that's what you focus on. And that's what I've been focused on.
Thank you all. Great discussion this week. It sounds like a little bit of white coat syndrome there, Dan. Are you familiar with that? Anyway, love you all. See you next week.
All right, guys. Guessing that Karen had to go take care of something. And Catherine, I know you were dealing with a storm over there, so if you can't jump out, I understand. So anyway, guys, this has been a great chat. I love talking about this stuff, and you know, for those of you who are watching, sorry it takes us a while to get through the book, but you know, I don't know about you, but when I read a book, I have thoughts that come up, and that's what we're talking about here. Is we start reading, and we have a thought come up, and then we have a conversation about it, and that's what makes this whole mastermind fun and interesting, and that's how we all get to know each other better and learn from each other and all of that. So I hope that if you're out there and you're watching this either as a recording or you're watching us live, you found this interesting. And if you have, we'd love to have you join us in the conversation. You just need to go to mindsetmasterycollective.com. That'll take you to our website where you can find a link to join our Facebook group. And in our Facebook group, you can ask to participate, or you'll find a link to join this on Saturday mornings. We always use the same links, at least for, you know, for good long stretches of time. And you'll find that on our Facebook group. So, oh, and we get together generally every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. So with that, guys, have a great, awesome, amazing week. And we'll see you next time on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.